Hello, my name is Dwayne Kimball, owner and founder of KMD89, VA Claims Consultant, Leave No Vet Behind, and also I'm a United States Army veteran. Today I'm bringing you another educational video as it pertains to the VA disability compensation claims process. And today I'm going to be discussing what are some conditions that you can obtain service connection on a secondary basis without a nexus. Yes, you heard me, without a nexus. But as always, before we get into today's video, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and don't forget to share this video with your fellow veterans. Also, you can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. So today's video, what are some conditions that you can obtain secondary service connection for without a nexus? Yes, you heard me, without a nexus. And I know a lot of veterans it's been right in front of them the entire time and they never noticed it. So I'm going to explain it to you today. I have 4 DBQs, 4 different slides that are DBQs that I'm going to show you as I explain what you can get, claim some of the conditions that you can obtain on a secondary basis without a nexus, okay? So, slide number 1. And here in slide number 1, you can see where I state that is an old DBQ, okay? And the reason why I put this old DBQ up is because I wanted to show a particular diagnosis on the back DBQ. So this DBQ is a back DBQ. It's from December 2017. So for those of you that think you can print this off and send it to the VA, they're going to kick it back because it's outdated, all right? But I want to make sure that you know this is an old DBQ. But if you see what I have underlined in the diagnosis section is radiculopathy, okay? I wanted to point that out that on this DBQ, it notes radiculopathy, all right? So for those that you don't know, you have you can get service connected for radiculopathy in your lower extremities for the sciatic and/or femoral nerve in your lower extremities. Okay. Now, slide number 2. This is a new DBQ for the back or any back conditions. Okay. So at the top left, you see where it states released January 2022. Pull this off the VA's website today. Now, also what I want to point out in the diagnosis section of the new DBQ, if you look down through the diagnosis section, the different diagnoses that they list, what's missing? Radiculopathy, okay? I'll leave it up for about a minute or so because that's why I showed you slide number 1 that had the diagnosis of radiculopathy, and here it doesn't. Why the VA didn't include it, I don't know. But when you see I have circled down at the bottom, it states other, meaning if your private physician feels that you have radiculopathy, they can check this box, and then in the section where it says other diagnosis, number 1, put bilateral lower extremity radiculopathy of the sciatic and/or femoral nerve, add the ICD code and date of diagnosis. Now, why am I pointing out radiculopathy? Because if the examiner notes in the diagnosis section that, let's say for example, you have lumbar strain, and then they come and they put in the other section radiculopathy of the sciatic femoral nerve, bilateral lower extremities, okay? Then the rating specialist has to service connect bilateral lower extremity radiculopathy, sciatic and/or femoral nerve secondary to that lumbar strain, and you don't need a nexus statement. You may ask yourself, why is that, Dwayne? Because radiculopathy of the lower extremity is a common complication of a lumbar strain. And also you may say, Dwayne, well, what about these other diagnoses? If you have any diagnosis that's on this list, then Google it and see if radiculopathy is a common complication, all right? Because either go to, they have other medical literature out there like Mayo Clinic, Medical Express or something like that where you can go and find that information, or simply just go to Google. That's where I go and I look at maybe different hospitals, or try to find some medical literature, especially when it pertains to secondary conditions. Okay, now that's the diagnosis section. Now we go to slide number 3, which is the radiculopathy section of this DBQ. So again, it baffles me as to why the VA removed the radiculopathy diagnosis from diagnosis, section 1, which is diagnosis section. But like I said, all is not lost. Your doctor check that box other and write it or type it in. Now, this is section 8 of the back DBQ, and it states radiculopathy. First question: does the veteran have radicular pain or any other signs or symptoms due to radiculopathy? If it's yes, then it states, if yes, complete sections 8 through D. Now, I was only able to fit sections 8 through C on here, all right? So A, it asks if it's the right lower, left lower, you have constant pain, intermittent pain, numbness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, if it's mild, moderate, or severe. Now, if it's mild, moderate, or severe, and the other sections that are completed, that will determine if you're 0, 10, 20%, et cetera, all right? Now, 8C, it asks, indicate nerve roots involved, femoral nerve or sciatic nerve, right, left, or both. Okay, so if it's both, obviously they're going to check both, but then they also have to check the box for femoral nerve and sciatic nerve. So again, if you have a diagnosis of lumbar strain, I'm just using lumbar strain as an example. If you have any of those other conditions, you have to go out and Google to see if radiculopathy is a common complication a common complication of, if radiculopathy is a common complication of a diagnosis other than lumbar strain in the diagnosis section, okay? So if you have a diagnosis of lumbar strain and the doctor checks other, that box other, and puts radiculopathy of the right, left, lower extremity for femoral sciatic nerve in the radiculopathy, the entire radiculopathy section is complete, 8A through 8D, then that rater has to grant the benefit. And there's no nexus involved because on here, the doctor is saying you have radiculopathy. It's in the DBQ, okay? I've seen it before. I've actually rated some cases like this. So again, a lot of veterans may miss this section or don't know what it means. This is what it means, okay? Now, slide number 4. The last slide. This is a diabetes mellitus DBQ. And again, in the top left-hand corner, I underline that it's an updated DBQ from January 2022. Section 3, complications of diabetes mellitus. Now, diabetes mellitus is 4 pages. I'm only showing you 1, which is page 3, all right? So, section 3, complications of diabetes mellitus. It has question 3A, does the veteran have any of the following recognized complications of diabetic mellitus? Yes, if it's yes, what is it? Diabetic peripheral neuropathy, and that can be in the upper extremities and or the lower extremities. Diabetic nephropathy of renal dysfunction, that's dealing with the kidneys, and diabetic retinopathy is dealing with the eyes, all right? Question 3B, does the veteran have any of the following conditions that are at least as likely as not, at least a 50% probability due to diabetes mellitus? So for those of you who don't know, that is a positive medical opinion. Again, least as likely as not, that is a positive medical opinion. And guess what? It's in the actual DBQ. Now, most DBQs don't have that. Don't ask me why. I don't know why the I don't know why the VA didn't do it. So if they check yes, what are they? Erectile dysfunction, cardiac conditions, hypertension, peripheral vascular disease, stroke, skin conditions, eye conditions, other complications that it says described. But also in parentheses, for each one of these conditions, what does it state? The doctor has to go and fill out those DBQs as well. All right? Definitely keep that in mind. I used to give classes on what makes a DBQ actionable and sufficient, and a lot of veterans or their providers miss this, okay? So it's important that you understand that. Now, Section 3C, it's a medical opinion, but it says permanently aggravated, okay? So it gives another list of conditions, but it's asking, is it permanently, does the diabetes permanently aggravate it? So if it's permanent, it means it's not gonna get any better, okay? It's there. And it gives a list of the conditions, and also it states to complete the appropriate cardiac conditions, cardiac questionnaire. So you have to go and complete those particular DBQs, or your medical provider would have to do that, okay? So I know that may be a little bit confusing, but again, let's go back over to back DBQ. We use lumbar strain as an example. If you're service connected for that, and that radiculopathy section is completed along with a diagnosis of radiculopathy, the rating specialist has to grant the benefit without a nexus, because what? It is a common complication. And again, if you have another one of those diagnoses in the diagnosis section, reach out to the medical provider, because I'm not a medical provider, and ask them, can this particular back diagnosis cause radiculopathy? And it probably wouldn't hurt for the examiner to throw a medical opinion in there, okay? But again, there's not one needed because it's on the DBQ and it's known to be a common complication. Now, diabetes. You do see the medical opinion in the diabetes section, and it has the different conditions that are common complications of diabetes. Now, the only difference is, in this DBQ, it states if you do have one of those diagnoses, then that medical provider will have to complete the separate appropriate DBQ. No nexus needed, okay? Because on the DBQ, it is asked, is it least as likely as not? If it's yes, the examiner says yes. They have this particular diagnosis, and it is due to it. Now, in the diabetes DBQ, it might not hurt in the diagnosis section. In the other section, okay, write out exactly what those common complications are for diabetes, just to clarify for the VA employee, okay? So I hope this video was educational, informational, and again, always continue to go out and do that research. I get a lot of questions, and they'll say, Dwayne, what about this? What about that? I'm not a medical provider. Go out and do that research, okay? So with that being said, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and don't forget to share this video with your fellow veterans. Thank you.